Welcome to Radicalize Me. Liberal democracies around the world have brief periods every few years called campaign season. Here in America, we love campaign season so much we decided to do it year-round. And because of how our election cycles work, next year is the Democratic Party's chance to win back some seats in Congress. So, while we're currently over 6 months away from the first state primaries of 2026, and over a year from the general election, it's time for these focus-tested assholes to shove themselves in your face. And with mega old Democrats rapidly losing touch with their base and increasingly dying in office, things are sure to get contentious with any young primary challengers. I've picked out a couple of these challengers to see what kind of fight they're bringing to next year's races. Meet the candidates. The first of many text messages I received this election cycle was from Liam Elkind, the Gen Z primary challenger to Jerry Nadler, who is currently the representative from New York's 12th District. Nadler is nothing special in my book, but notably, he endorsed Zohran Mamdani after his primary win, along with AOC, while fellow New Yorkers Hakeem Jeffries and Chuck Schumer, the House and Senate Democratic leaders, respectively, have not. But what's Elkind's deal? He's quoted in the foreword as saying, "We need new leaders with the energy and urgency to meet this moment." Cool. Well, he would be new. The guy's only 26, but what kind of energy and urgency is he bringing to this moment? Elkind on Monday launched his campaign with a 2-minute video reminiscent of Zohran Mamdani's viral street-level, direct-to-camera clips that led him to victory in the New York City Democratic mayoral primary. Ah, yes, it was the clips, you guys. Zohran won because everyone loves his clips!
Clip, you fool!
But okay, let's check out his clip game.
The Democratic Party is dying. We're losing votes.
The last 8 members of Congress who have died, all of them are Democrats.
The suffocating gerontocracy.
Older incumbents should step aside.
I actually like this. He starts with a mild to moderate gut punch. The party is dying metaphorically, but also elected officials are literally dying in office because so many of them are so old. It's attention grabbing and it's about a real problem. Not policy, but at least real.
Losing elections.
Why are Republicans doing a better job of electing young leaders?
Losing our democracy.
Democrats are not taking this issue seriously, but they need to.
Democrats are losing and democracy is under attack. Okay, fine. Still no policy, but we're only 10 seconds in.
And the leaders who got us here are refusing to retire with devastating consequences.
Roe versus Wade is overruled.
In the last 5 months, 3 House Democrats passed away, allowing Trump's billionaire bill gutting health care and food stamps for millions of people to go through by 1 vote. Our leaders need to answer the call now, and they aren't. So today, I'm respectfully asking my Congressman Jerry Nadler to consider retiring.
Telling these ancient cretins to retire is great, but I have an issue with the fact that we're almost a minute in now, and all he's talked about is how Democrats are too old, and they keep dying so they lose votes in Congress. But if all you want to do with the majority is block the worst of the Republican agenda, that's just not enough. Yeah, the big beautiful bill passed by 1 vote because old Democrats died. RBG died in office, and Roe was overturned. Those are bad things. But you need to have a positive agenda as well as opposing the Republicans.
They're telling us to give them 10 more years in office, even as they say,
I'm not sure there's much we can do about it. We will have to wait.
I was born and raised in New York City and went to public school here. And when COVID hit, I didn't wait. I put my phone number on a flyer and started delivering food to seniors and others in need.
Liam helped thousands of seniors just like me.
If you called the government hotline and asked for help getting food, they said to call me. But people's lives shouldn't depend on one person picking up his phone.
This part is fine. It's actually pretty cool that he did this, but there's a problem. When he says the government was overwhelmed and started sending people to him, that was a perfect opportunity to talk about why that happened and what program he wants to champion in Congress to get food to people in emergencies, or even a food delivery system year-round for seniors, disabled people, single parents, low income, etc. That's what Zohran would have done, but instead this guy just uses it as an example of how he acted quickly, while Nadler and others say they had to wait when it comes to Trump. So the food delivery is irrelevant, and he's criticizing Nadler for an entirely separate issue or no issue. Elkind just wants Democrats to take on Trump, but doesn't say specifically how or on what they're failing.
We can't wait to actually fight Trump, end corruption, ban corporate PAC money, impose term limits, build more housing, and serve our neighbors in need. I'm Liam Elkind, and I'm running for Congress because we can't wait.
Fight Trump is vague, end corruption is vague, ban corporate PAC money is a real thing and a good policy, I'll give him that. Impose term limits, meh. Build more housing. I have little doubt this guy means abundance agenda, cutting red tape, giving funds to private developers with no guarantees of affordability. In fact, let's take a slight detour on housing. Here's what his website says about housing. When the current incumbent was first elected, the average one-bedroom apartment in Manhattan cost $541 per month. Now the average is almost $5,000. Meanwhile, 40% of the buildings in Manhattan would be illegal to build today. Simply put, life has become unaffordable because our leaders have made it impossible to find new housing. Liam will lower the rent by investing in new affordable housing. We have to read between the lines a little bit, but in a moment you'll see how this housing statement is a not-so-subtle dog whistle to the private real estate market. A minute ago I mentioned the abundance agenda, which, if you're not familiar, comes from the book Abundance, written by Ezra Klein and Derek Thompson and released in March 2025. In it, they argue that the housing crisis is mostly a supply and demand issue. Housing is too expensive because we're not building enough, and because housing is too expensive and there's not enough of it, people become homeless, they live with their parents, they can't move out of their current place and free it up for someone else, etc. Like most supply and demand arguments, this is oversimplified at best. As far as I know, not enough housing might be part of the problem, but Team Abundance very deliberately ignores that housing is subject to price gouging, just like food, healthcare, and other commodities with inelastic demand and often inadequate regulation. Combine this with the financialization of the entire American economy, meaning that for much of the capitalist class, almost everything has become a speculative asset, and you have an environment where we have almost forgotten that commodities can have use value. In the case of housing, use value would mean living in the fucking housing. The other thing the Abundanites argue is that the reason we're not building more housing is that there's too much red tape. This is kind of an old-timey term for bureaucracy or institutional barriers. Again, there might be some truth to this. There are aspects of bureaucracy that we socialists would want to get rid of too, but a lot of the time, cutting red tape means cutting regulations on environmental impact, fire safety, structural integrity, disability accommodations, and of course, union busting. With that out of the way, let's go line by line through Elkind's housing statement. When the current incumbent was first elected, the average one-bedroom apartment in Manhattan cost $541 per month. Now the average is almost $5,000. I looked this up, and $541 in 1976, when Nadler was first elected, should be $3,143 in 2025. If you live in New York, your rent should be almost $2,000 less than it is. Meanwhile, 40% of the buildings in Manhattan would be illegal to build today. I first read this as a dog whistle about regulations. Because of his centrist, non-committal approach, I interpret it to mean that we built more housing back when there were fewer regulations, and therefore we should cut regulations. If I'm being as fair as possible, though, you could interpret this sentence to say 40% of the buildings don't meet regulations and therefore should be replaced or retrofitted or what have you. The more I read it, the more ambiguous it looks, which is not a good sign. Whatever he means, he's not being very upfront about it. But back to his ad.
And serve our neighbors in need.
Serve our neighbors in need. Again, is this a policy? Does he want to add or expand some kind of food assistance program? This thing he organized early in the pandemic is admirable, but it's something he did as a private citizen. If he uses it in his campaign ad, he should be explaining how he'd make the government work better so that people don't have to rely on some guy happening to decide to step in. Now let's compare his ad to Zohran Mamdani's first campaign ad.
New York Mayor Eric Adams has been indicted by a federal grand jury.
The first 10 seconds aren't the most substantive. Everyone does some version of this, establishing themselves as part of the community. Nothing wrong with it.
Every politician says New York is the greatest city on the globe. But what good is that if no one can afford to live here?
Zohran also starts with a dig at his incumbent opponent, quoting Eric Adams as saying New York City is the greatest planet on the globe. On the globe is a weird way to say that, but it's very Eric Adams. The thing I love about Eric Adams is he doesn't think about what he's going to say before he says it. He's more of a jazz artist with language, you know? He just goes for it, no wrong notes.
You should always, when your child brings in his popular knapsack with many different locations.
But Zohran's dig at Adams is not just about his age or the speed at which he acts. He uses this idea of New York being the greatest city in the world as a jumping off point to talk about affordability, and in no vague terms.
The cost of living is the real crisis. New Yorkers are being crushed by rent and childcare. The slowest buses in the nation are robbing us of our time and our sanity. Working people are being pushed out of the city they built. A mayor could change this.
He jumps right into the issues that would be the planks of his campaign. The rent is too damn high, childcare is too damn high, and the buses are too damn slow. Translated into policy, this becomes freeze the rent, universal childcare, and fast free buses. I won't go through all of Zohran's video right now, but I hope you get the idea that he ramps up and then gets right into policy, while Elkind, mimicking Zohran's video style, never actually gets to the substance. Our next Pete Buttigieg clone is Patrick Roath, who is challenging incumbent Stephen Lynch, another old asshole, in Massachusetts' 8th District. Let's check out his launch video.
Hey, I'm Patrick Roath. I'm running for Congress in the Massachusetts 8th District. I'm running because everything is on the line right now with Trump in the White House. And we've got to have people who are ready to go down there and fight for us and stick up for us and defend our democracy.
So we need people who will fight for us, stick up for us, and defend our democracy. All three of those are at best vague and at worst meaningless.
And I'm running because of my background and my story too. You know, my mom was born in Brockton and grew up partly in Braintree, raised by a single mom. And she was waiting tables on the Cape in the 70s when she first heard that IBM was hiring women, you know, really for the first time. And she met my dad there, who'd just gotten out of the Army after getting drafted during Vietnam. And they stayed at that company for decades. And it really, for our family, that was the ticket to middle-class prosperity. And it was that sense that you don't hear that American dream opportunity story so much anymore that really got me motivated to be in public service for the first time.
He's running because of his background, which is that his parents met working at IBM. Great. That was their ticket to middle-class prosperity, their American dream opportunity story. Why? What made that job an American dream opportunity story? Unions? A higher minimum wage? Paid parental leave? What was it? And what did this American dream look like? Were your parents able to buy a house when they were young? Was it in a nice neighborhood with well-funded public schools you got to go to? This is why I call these guys Pete Buttigieg clones. They run their fucking mouths and don't say anything. They're insulting your intelligence. They take on the appearance and affectation of some platonic ideal of a politician and try to just soothsay you into submission. Also, look at how far we've fallen. We're talking about the middle class, of course. Democrats dropped working class decades ago, and no one ever seems to ask them what's supposed to happen to the underclass implied by all the middle class talk. I'm glad his mom managed to get out of waitressing and into IBM, but what about the people who didn't? All the other waitresses can get fucked because they didn't manage to find their American dream opportunity story? And what the fuck is an American dream opportunity story? The American dream was always bullshit.
It's called the American dream because you have to be asleep to believe it.
But political rhetoric used to at least treat it like a promise. It was supposedly a near guarantee that if you worked hard, you could make something of yourself, whether that was a life of luxury and wealth, or just a nice house with your spouse and 2 kids. I could make caveats about it all day, but suffice to say, the mid-20th century was one of the better times to be an American. But now I guess we're emphasizing that it's an American dream opportunity. You have a chance, technically. Given enough time in an infinite universe, all probabilities will come to be. So somehow, somewhere, you could theoretically live the American dream. But really, he's not even talking about the goddamn opportunities. He's talking about his American dream opportunity story. Because that's what we do now in America. We tell stories. We share. We bear witness. We express concern. but don't ask us to fucking do anything about it. That's helping the Republicans. One more thing. Of course, neither Roath nor Elkind mentioned Israel or Gaza, either in their ads or on their websites. The foreword describes Elkind as a liberal Zionist, gag, but I couldn't find anything for Roath. So I asked him. I sent an email to the campaign asking if he will vote against sending weapons to Israel, a genocidal apartheid state. He said, "We are rolling out policy sections on the website and have not gotten to foreign policy or Gaza yet. We will. I have made some statements on social media about the conflict." And am talking about it all the time on the trail, of course, particularly with advocates. Longer discussion, but short version for me is that the Netanyahu government's conduct right now is totally unacceptable. Strong words. And in light of the failure to seek a serious diplomatic end to the war, and instead seek constant escalation against civilian targets, I am in favor of stopping offensive arms shipments to Israel at this time. The Sanders Resolution. A couple of things. I am in favor of stopping offensive arms shipments to Israel at this time. Offensive arms. The AOC classic. We can't stop defensive arms, but only for Israel. Not for Gaza, not for the West Bank, not for Iran, not for Syria, not for Lebanon, not for Somalia, not for Iraq, not for Afghanistan, not for China, not for Russia. And at this time. This is the same non-committal doublespeak crap we get from most elected Democrats. There's always plenty of room for interpretation and backtracking. No commitment, no moral clarity, no leadership. Coward shit. Also, in light of the failure to seek a serious diplomatic end to the war is a hell of a way to say sabotage peace talks. I also asked him about foreign policy and immigration, specifically whether he thought that maybe drawing down our military presence around the world would reduce blowback and large waves of immigration. And to be clear, I don't care at all how many people want to move to the US. I just don't want to force it on them by bombing their homes. No answer. So there you have it. A couple of the mealy-mouthed dorks running for office on the bold platform of I'm not a million years old. Don't get me wrong. Elections aren't everything. I myself won't vote for anyone anymore who does not have, at the very least, strong social democratic policy positions and moral clarity on the Gaza genocide. If that means voting for DSA candidates, so be it. If it's PSL or SPUSA or independent or whatever, that's fine too. Also, look for parties doing organizing work outside of elections, because that's the stuff we need to build up as this fascist government becomes more violent and more neglectful. DSA does this. But Joe, they're not real socialists. Great, then go to PSL or another one or start your own or whatever. Just support any way you can. You can support this program with a like, comment, or subscribe, or hit us up on Patreon or buy me a coffee. Thanks for watching and see you next time. Bye now.